The Civil War. So much has been written, spoken, argued, and conjectured about it. And over 100 years later, there are still many questions at issue. Gettysburg's role in the conflict is probably the most controversial. Question: why was such a great battle fought here in this peaceful little town? Question: is it possible that the South could have won the Battle of Gettysburg? And perhaps the whole war of the rebellion? May I venture a guess that these issues, as well as the beauty of this historic countryside, brought you here? We will address these knotty points as we drive through the town of Gettysburg, then onto the battlefield.
May I suggest you assign the duty of following the map and handling the tape player to another person in your vehicle. If we become entangled in traffic, or you wish to stop anywhere not indicated on the tape, turn off the player. Start it again when ready to proceed. An average speed of 20 miles per hour will keep you in synchronization with the tape when on the battlefield, unless instructed differently. Otherwise, please proceed with the traffic flow. This tape tour will be following the Park Service Auto Tour signs. They are blue and gray and have a white star. Most will also have an arrow to keep you going in the correct direction. Every attempt has been made to present historically accurate information in this tape. However, the dramatizations or conversation presented between soldiers or famous personalities are just that. They represent the author's thoughts on what might have been said, not what actually was said. Now, please move to the parking lot exit and make a left turn onto Tawnytown Road. Travel to the traffic light. On green, proceed through the traffic light. You are now on Washington Street. We will stay on this street until we intersect with Middle Street, Route 116. A battlefield tour sign will guide you. Turn off the tape until you have made a left turn onto Middle Street. When on Middle Street, turn it on.
In 1863, this street was just a dirt road. Of course, there are many new buildings in Gettysburg now, but those that were here in 1863 have a bronze plaque, usually near the doorway. Now I want to give you a little background as we go through town on Middle Street. You know, of course, the Battle of Gettysburg was neither the first nor the last battle of the Civil War. It's talked about so much that you'd think it was the only battle. Well, it was the greatest, and it certainly was the most important. By any measure of a battle, it was the greatest ever fought on our continent, and one of the greatest ever fought anywhere. Now, up until today, and remember, this is July 1, 1863, the Army of Northern Virginia has been simply whipping the pants off the Union. They've been doing this since the first exchange of gunfire in this war, back in April of '61 at Fort Sumter, South Carolina. The Army of Northern Virginia is under the command of that magnificent man, General Robert E. Lee. And for 2 years, they've been essentially winning this war in the East. Now, General Lee is out to finish it. To do this, he needs a decisive victory, and he needs it on Northern soil. With such a victory, the South feels they would demoralize the Union and force them to negotiate a peace. General Lee's objective is Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, a railroad center with excellent access to New York and Philadelphia. General Lee has taken his whole army north into Pennsylvania. There's a division commanded by General Robert Rhodes due north in Carlisle. There's another division commanded by General Jubal Early due east in York. And somewhere, Lee doesn't even know where, is his cavalry corps commanded by the dashing General Jeb Stuart. Now, this is interesting. The Union Army, called the Army of the Potomac, and for all of 2 days it's been under the command of General George G. Meade, is south of here, except for one division of cavalry in this area commanded by General John Buford. The 1st Army Corps will also be here shortly, commanded by General John F. Reynolds. They're on their way now. Both armies want to fight each other. Lee wants to fight 10 miles west of here in a mountain pass. Meade wants to fight about 15 miles south of here on a creek just over the Maryland border. And neither general knows exactly where the other army is. And that's why General Buford's cavalry is in Gettysburg.
Watch for the next battlefield tour sign. It will indicate a right turn into the battlefield on Reynolds Avenue. Make the right turn when able.
Is it chance or plan, those seemingly coincidental meetings that forever alter the course of our lives? Here now is just such an event. West of us, on either side of this road, are coming 6,000 men. A group of Union cavalry scouts have dismounted and are coming up on this ridge, McPherson's Ridge.
Lieutenant, look! They look like Rebs on that ridge. Mother of God! Here, Corporal, my glasses. Look beyond that ridge. My God! Sir, that looks like the whole army of Northern Virginia.
Okay, now listen to me. Get back to your horse. Tell the other men to dismount and spread out on this ridge. Tell Colonel Gamble what we've seen, and then ride to the seminary and notify General Buford. Now, you haven't got a second to lose. Go! All right, you men, form in platoons. Take cover and prepare to fire by platoon. We're going to have to cause a ruckus.
Should we fire at will, sir?
When I give the order, and then only if you can hit something.
Again, for a few moments, there is the stillness that precedes the storm of battle. The Battle of Gettysburg has begun.
Continue to drive to a stoplight at Route 30 West, the Chambersburg Pike. When green, proceed straight ahead. Turn off the tape player now. Start it again when the light is green.
Within 15 minutes of his arrival at the battle line, one of the Union's finest generals is dead. But not before his well-trained and disciplined corps is spread along the length of this ridge. The battle lines are now fixed, and the sound reaches a deafening pitch. We're coming up on a railroad cut that had been made through this ridge. The tracks have not yet been laid. Part of a brigade of Confederate infantry is running through at this part of the Union line. Union soldiers on either side of the cut have spotted them. A vicious fight ensues. Before this fight at the cut is over, there will be over 500 casualties. Those who can escape. The rest are captured. With the death of General Reynolds, command of the Union Corps temporarily falls to General Abner Doubleday, and shortly after he has brought a captured Confederate general, James Archer.
Don't. I captured him and he's mine. General Doubleday, sir. Look what I brung.
Why, if it isn't General Archer. How nice to see you again, Jay.
Good morning, Abner. I'm sorry I can't say the same. But I can say you'd best have your enlisted men taught how to behave toward a general officer.
Oh, Jim, don't blame him. He probably's never seen a Confederate general before.
By noon, with the first few hours of fighting behind them, well over 1,000 Union and Confederate soldiers have fallen. The significance of this is diminished by that dry military word, casualties. Casualties are not only soldiers killed, but soldiers injured too badly to fight on. Casualties are also the missing in action, and those who in utter terror of such carnage run away. Each casualty is a tragedy. There's a lull now in the fighting. The Union briefly enjoys a slight edge.
With this picture of the beginning of the first day's battle in mind, I think you can see the significance of this large and beautiful monument straight ahead of you. It is the monument to Peace Eternal in a Nation United. This monument was dedicated on the 75th anniversary of the battle in 1938 by President Franklin Delano Roosevelt. At that time, there were over 8,000 veterans of the Civil War still alive. Congress agreed to pay the way of any of these veterans who wished to come to the dedication ceremonies. On the day of the dedication, over 1,800 veterans, both Union and Confederate, were here. It was a heartwarming sight to see them, for their average age was 94. 2 years later, many of these men had great-grandsons again fighting over slavery, but together now, they were fighting against the enslavement of the world. Look for a space and park. This is an excellent spot to overview the area we just dramatized for you, and a good place to take photographs. Also, the Park Service has provided 2 excellent and informative tape narrations in this area, and I suggest you take advantage of this information.
Now stop the tape if you wish to inspect this area. Start it again when you are ready to resume your drive. Our next stop is the Oak Ridge Park Service Tower. As we travel, you will see the tower straight ahead. Exercise care when crossing the Mummersburg Road. Stop the tape until you have parked on the Oak Ridge parking lot, then start it again. This is a great place to overview the battle area soon to be dramatized. You might enjoy the view from the top of the tower. It's worth the climb. If you so choose, do so now. Stop the tape, start it when you return to your vehicle. Remain parked while the tape dramatization explains this segment of the fierce first day's battle.
We're on Oak Ridge, and while there's a lull in the fighting, this is a good place for you to see what's going on. This is the extreme right flank of the Union line. Just behind us, in a few minutes, it's going to be hit from the north by a division of Confederate infantry. It's General Robert Rhodes' division just getting here from Carlisle. Up in front of us, you have a pretty good view of Pennsylvania College. And if you look closely, you can see a few regiments of Union soldiers and artillery coming out this way. They're expecting a flanking move. As they take up their position along the road there, the Union line will fan out east of us. Eventually, it's going to stretch out about 1.5 miles east. So you see the Union line is going to form a big crescent. And in about 2 hours, this whole crescent from north of town to west of town is going to be ablaze with the battle. Way to your left, that's northeast, comes another division of Confederates. They're coming from York, and they're commanded by General Jubal Early. Coming to meet that division is the Union 11th Corps under General O.O. Howard. There are so many German troops in that corps, they call the corps the Dutchman.
Start driving now, following the battlefield 2-hour tour sign. We will be completing a loop back to Reynolds Avenue.
The lull is over. From the north, General Robert Rhodes' division is on the attack. Fresh troops from the Union 1st Corps surprised them with a fierce counterattack. Union troops in retreat here, the right flank of the Union line, is the 11th Corps, the Dutchman. It was thought before the battle that this corps was a hard luck or jinxed corps. It wasn't really. At Chancellorsville, it had fought against a numerically superior and superbly led Confederate corps and sustained terrible losses. These losses had not been replenished, so that when it engages this advancing Confederate corps this afternoon, it is only at 2/3 its proper strength. With the right flank in retreat, the whole Union Army was ordered to fall back lest Confederates sweep in behind it. By late afternoon, the Union crescent-shaped battle line has crumpled, and the Union Army is in full retreat. They pour now, the exhausted, the maimed, the dying, through the streets of this small town. There are a few skirmishes in the streets, limited house-to-house fighting. Here and there a sniper picks at the retreating soldiers.
Hey, Pete, he's in that house over there. The one with the white shutters, reloading. My arm's bad. I can't get it.
Boy, I can.
You got him, Pete. It's bad enough what they did to us out there on the battlefield, without them getting us in town, too.
We will be intersecting Route 30 again. At the traffic light, make a left turn onto Route 30. Turn off the tape until on 30.
The first day's battle is now over. The day belongs to the Confederacy. The Army of Northern Virginia has again engaged the Army of the Potomac and won. What had begun as a chance encounter between a division of infantry looking for supplies and a division of cavalry looking for the enemy had exploded into a battle covering several miles and involving 40,000 combatants. Now almost half that number are casualties. Casualties. Again, that dry word that takes the sting from so much tragedy.
Soon you will see a sign indicating a right turn onto North Hayes Street. Continue to follow the signs to on West Confederate Avenue.
On your right, you will see the now famous cupola on top of the Lutheran Theological Seminary building. On the morning of July 1st, it was the observation post for General Buford. What a great view of the surrounding area. Later, several Confederate generals made good use of this facility. The remainder of this building became a hospital. While the battle winds down to the north and east of us, let's review the facts involved with this morning's combat. We know that General Buford anticipated an attack by Southern forces, but had a hunch that this might be the full force of the rumored invasion of the North by General Lee. Heath commanded about 7,000 men, and Buford had no more than 1,500 under his command.
Continue to follow the battlefield tour signs to the next traffic light. Turn off the tape until through the traffic light.
We are on West Confederate Avenue, one of the most beautiful areas of the battlefield. The Park Service does extraordinary duty to keep it beautiful. I am sure I need not remind you not to litter. The retreat of the Union forces through the town may have been a bit humiliating, but it seems that they have fallen back onto an excellent defensive position. The position occupies what's called East Cemetery Hill. That excellent defensive line stretches from Culp's Hill, then in about a quarter mile it swings due south about 3 miles. The Confederates are camped north, east, and west of town. The Union has good position on these hills. That area is where a Confederate general got his reputation ruined, and where a lot of people believe the Confederates lost the war. Here's what happened. Did you notice the name Jackson hasn't been mentioned today? Stonewall Jackson was killed about 2 months ago. Lee felt his loss severely. Lee and Jackson were as close as two soldiers can be. They were close friends, and in battle they thought as one man. Lee got used to giving orders that allowed a man like Jackson to use his own initiative. In other words, the orders were not detailed. Now that's fine when you're giving orders to a man like Stonewall, but it's risky when giving it to a man like Richard Ewell, who needed to have specific orders, and who is now commanding Stonewall's old corps. The order I'm talking about went like this. If you think it practical, you may take Cemetery Hill. Now, if Lee had said, take Cemetery Hill, he probably would have. But Lee said if, and so Ewell hesitated. Now, General Ewell had a lot on his mind. He had the flu, he had had heavy casualties, his corps got disorganized coming through town, and he didn't know what was waiting for him on the other side of Culp's Hill. The retreat of the Union forces also left this high ground, Seminary Ridge, our current location, vacated, and the Confederates made good use of it as a staging area.
Soon on our left, you will see a statue of General Robert E. Lee on his famous horse Traveler. This statue has just been splendidly refurbished. When able, park in one of the provided spaces and view this fine work of art. Also, you will be able to see the Union position on Cemetery Ridge, about 1 6/10 miles across the fields, that will be the focal point of that most important assault, which will happen on July 3rd. Turn off the tape now. Start it when returning to West Confederate Avenue.
Do not think that these generals do not feel the loss of each man under their command. True, they're inclined to consider the purely military significance of each casualty. Each man lost is one less gun to fire, one cannon less efficient, one soldier less protected and saddened at the loss of a comrade. No general wants to send an injured or crippled father, son, or husband home, nor make a wife a widow or child an orphan. And so, with great care, they plan the day's events.
I'm in favor of pulling back to the Cashtown Pass. It can be defended with half the men we have here, and the rest of them can take Harrisburg.
I say strike the middle of the line, draw their fire, and then hit the two hills on either flank.
General Longstreet, you've been awfully quiet.
Yes, sir. You know, I've been thinking about that position. Now, you strike the middle, and you'll be like a big-mouthed bass striking a spring fly. Old George Meade is fishing for us. Now, I want to do some fishing, draw him out, get him to attack me.
General Longstreet, if I knew where General Stuart was, or could find out how strong General Meade is, or if I knew for sure what was east of the Baltimore Road, I'd consider it. But I don't know. What I do know is George Meade. He isn't going to make any mistakes, and he'll take advantage of any that I make. General Ewell?
Yes, sir. I respect what you said, General Longstreet, but, General Lee, we can take Culp's Hill and cover the right flank, and General Longstreet's boys can take the left flank.
I don't have enough men, and I don't want to go into battle with only one boot on.
And so it was that the debate continued until it was finally resolved by General Lee.
General Ewell, your Second Corps will take Culp's Hill. General Longstreet, your First Corps and a division of General Hill's will take the left flank and push east. These attacks will take place at precisely the same time and will form a pincer.
General Lee made the most important military decision of his career. The importance of the attacks taking place simultaneously could make or break the tide of battle. This road seems so peaceful now and beautiful. The cannon seems small almost like toys when compared with today's implements of war. There are over 400 cannon on the battlefield. Most of them, by the way, can still fire. We've been on the Confederate battle line now for several minutes. It was situated on this ridge, which is called Seminary Ridge. The ridge over to our left, which you saw as we came down this road, is the Union position on Cemetery Ridge. It's not quite a mile over to it.
At the Millerstown stop sign, continue straight ahead, following the battlefield tour signs. Exercise caution when crossing the next highway, the Emmitsburg Road. To your right, you will see a white fence. It is part of the fence surrounding the farm of President and Mrs. Dwight D. Eisenhower, which is now a National Historic Site. Tours can be arranged via a shuttle bus at the National Park Service Visitor Center.
It's now well past noon on this, the second day at Gettysburg. Except for a few and random shots, there is still no battle. Delay, that great paradox of the military. Hurry up and wait. What's the reason for this delay? It is this delay that will perhaps forever ruin the reputation of General James Longstreet in the South. His later detractors said he was sulking, dragging out the time, deliberately trying General Lee. Or was he waiting until the hot July sun was squarely in the eyes of the Union line? Had he received curious reports from his scouts about a possible Union attack on his corps? Look to your left. In the distance, you will see Little Round Top, and to the right, a bit higher, is Big Round Top. We will soon be traveling up Big Round Top on our way to Little Round Top. The most dramatic and vital battle of this, the second day, is taking place in that area of the Round Tops. There is a little peach orchard, a wheat field, an area of thickets, and a pile of boulders known as Devil's Den. On this acreage are two divisions of the Union Third Corps under the command of Daniel E. Sickles. But something is wrong here. General Meade had ordered General Sickles to place his corps on the left flank of his line up on Cemetery Ridge, including Little Round Top. General Sickles didn't feel too comfortable there. Well now, General Meade is checking over his battle line and discovers Sickles and his corps aren't where they're supposed to be. And Little Round Top, the most strategic point on the left flank, is vacant.
General Sickles, sir, what in the name of Almighty God are you and your corps doing over here?
General Meade, sir,
This is the most stupid, most ill-conceived, and most flagrant example of disobedience that I've ever seen in 20 years. Why was this not reported to me?
General Meade, sir, I found
General
that...
Sickles, sir, I order you immediately to get every one of these men...
General Sickles, sir, I wish to report that the Confederate attack has begun.
Yes, Colonel. Thank you.
Well, I'm glad to see somebody around here report something, even if it is the obvious. Well, hold the line, General Sickles. I will try to obtain reinforcements.
At precisely 4 o'clock in the afternoon of July 2nd, 1863, the Battle of Gettysburg resumes. The 6,000 men of the Union Third Corps are spread more thinly and are far more vulnerable than they were on the assigned position they had just vacated. They are under attack by about 15,000 men of the Confederate First Corps. These Confederates are among the best trained, most seasoned, and best led troops on either side at the Battle of Gettysburg. The badly outnumbered Union troops give a good account of themselves and fight most fiercely and bravely, but they are simply overwhelmed. the left flank of the line is forced to fall back into the area that is known as the Devil's Den. Then the line that is stretched across the wheat field is forced back. General Sickles is hit by a piece of artillery shell and falls from his horse.
General Sickles is hit.
Sir, are you all right?
If you mean by that, am I alive? Yes. Help me to get up.
Sir, I can't. Look at your legs, sir.
Oh, for the love of God.
Stretcher bearers!
Does it hurt, sir?
Sergeant, of course it hurts.
Sir, it looks crushed.
Well, if they take it off, Sergeant, I'm going to send it to someone.
Sure you've figured out what's going on here. When General Sickles' corps moved up to where they shouldn't have been, they left the round top abandoned. When the Confederates poured into the den, they overwhelmed the Union soldiers and discovered that the hill was vacant. At just about the same time, General Warren discovered the same thing. So what's going on here is a race to see who can get on the round top first. It's one of the fiercest fights of the whole battle. Pistols, bayonets, hand to hand, pieces of wood, anything. Well, the Union won the race to the top.
Soon you will see a few parking spaces provided for Big Round Top, but we are continuing our drive to Little Round Top straight ahead. When there, find a place to park in the spaces provided. I suggest you walk to the top of the hill and overview the area of conflict just dramatized. When you have stretched your legs and your lungs filled with our good fresh air, return to your vehicle and continue the tape. Prepare to continue your drive, but do not start driving until instructed to do so. Please be aware of a left turn into a wooded area at the base of this hill. An auto tour sign will direct you.
Time. Poets and philosophers have written about time since almost the beginning of time. Time. In this instance, the amount of time was only 5 minutes. Had the Confederates stormed the hill just 5 minutes sooner, it would have been theirs, and with it, control of the Union left flank. It would have given General Longstreet the protection he needed to cut the Union supply line just east of here, or so it can be argued.
Start driving now, maintaining a 15-mile-an-hour pace, and remember to follow the auto tour route signs.
But there is some more time to be considered. The Confederate attack on Culp's Hill was to have taken place at the same time as General Longstreet's. It took place, in fact, several hours later. This delay in the attacks gave General Meade the time to shift his forces around, to place troops and supplies when and where they were needed. And this is exactly what General Lee knew his opponent, General Meade, would do if the attacks failed to take place simultaneously. When it's finally dark, the fighting ceases for the day. The second day of the Battle of Gettysburg is over. After all the planning and delays, fierce and vicious fighting, gallantry soon crowned with suffering. For so many, the day's battle ends in a draw. As we descend the hill, look to your left. That is the den. In Judeo-Christian understanding, the devil is the prince of darkness, disorder, and fear. Hell, his home, a place of unending terror and pain. This place, then, is aptly named, for it is doubtful that hell itself has known such fury as was seen here this day. This tangle of boulder, rock, tree, and underbrush stretches in an arch for several hundred yards from south to west. This whole area through which we pass is known as the Valley of Death. It's not known for sure how many died here. In the evening of this day, the ground is covered with dead and dying and the litter of war. That creek, now but a little brook, is Bloody Run. It was so named because it ran red with the blood of both Union and Confederate. To the disappointments of this day are added now the heartbreaking sound of literally thousands of injured men, some crying like small boys lost, for this is what they were, really. There were so many in their teens, just boys. They were crying, of course, from the pain of their wounds, but also from loneliness. Others could only moan in the anguishing pain of their open wounds and severed limbs. The full moon stains the battlefield with a strange, ethereal light. It illuminates the gentle, drifting evening mist which hovers above the ground like a ghostly shroud. And among the fireflies, accentuating this ghostly scene, come other lights now, the lanterns of search parties. To all this is added now the sound of men calling the names of brothers and friends with pained hope of recognition that they will be found alive and brought to the safety and succor of their camps.
Please turn over or reverse the cassette to continue on side B.
Just a few days ago, there were only 2,400 people in Gettysburg and the immediate area. July 1st, there were almost 100,000. July 2nd, that number almost doubles. This throng of souls includes not only the soldiers, but newspapermen, doctors, and nurses. The armies proper are all about the town. The Union, south and southeast. The Confederates, northeast and north and west. The town itself begins to show the marks of battle. The implements of war are everywhere, disabled or reserved. Caissons, wagons, and cannons. The town itself has become a hospital town. All the larger buildings, be they home, church, store, school, or barn, yes, even barns are filled with the maimed or dying.
Continue to follow the auto tour signs. Soon when we get off this windy road, we will be making several turns. A left at the Wheatfield Road, then a right onto Sickles, and then another right onto United States Avenue.
The town of Gettysburg attracted many different religious faiths. The townspeople were rightly proud of their numerous church buildings. These buildings were pressed into service as operating theaters, and the members came forth to help any way they could. Some helped to take apart pews to make operating tables. Some drilled holes in the floor under the amputation tables for the blood to drain out. When it was safe, some scoured the streets to find the wounded, to take them to the hospital churches. It was too late for one Union soldier. In his hand, he was holding tight a picture of his 3 children, in the other, a pencil. Then on the ground next to him, a letter to his wife. He never had a chance to finish. Confederate wagons and couriers passed back and forth through the town, speeding with information and supplies from one flank to another. Watching all this activity are the children, ever curious, ever watchful. They peer furtively from the windows of the houses, their anxious mothers never letting them out, for fear is great in Gettysburg. While we are driving to another area on the battlefield, let's talk about the two men responsible for the whole battle. George Gordon Meade for the Union and Robert Edward Lee for the Confederacy. First, Meade. He didn't have a very nice disposition, to put it mildly. And the situation he was in today didn't help matters any. Nevertheless, he was a good general, and nobody knew this better than his opponent, Robert E. Lee. You see, Meade and Lee had served together some years ago in Mexico. Meade had taken command of the Army of the Potomac only 4 days ago. If you have ever taken over a job that someone else started, magnify that several hundred times, and you can imagine what he was up against. Furthermore, in that battle, by accident, the first day, he lost two of his best generals, Reynolds and Barlow, and 9,000 men besides. He didn't even want to fight here. He'd had a nice spot picked out just south of here in Maryland. So, if those reports about him looking tired and haggard this morning are true, you can easily see why. One last thing, and this on top of everything else. He was up against the great Robert E. Lee. Robert E. Lee. Can anything bad be said about him? No. He didn't smoke, drink, or use profane language, and he loved the military. He once spoke, "It is well that war is so terrible, lest we grow too fond of it." Lee graduated with honors from West Point, and about 20 years later, returned to be commandant there. Lincoln offered him the command of the whole Union Army. That may seem strange. It isn't. Look on the Declaration of Independence, and you'll see two of his relatives' names just under John Hancock's. And when war clouds started gathering, he returned to his farm, saddened at what was to happen to the young country his family had done so much to help form. Even though he did not believe in secession, he heeded the call of his own state, Virginia, and went to war. These, then, are the two men now commanding.
Our next turn will be a left onto Hancock Avenue. Turn off the tape until on Hancock Avenue.
On our right, we will see a statue of Father William Corby, chaplain of the famous Irish Brigade. This unit was made up of mostly Catholics, and thus mandated that a priest be available to deliver absolution to a dying Catholic. Father Corby realized that he could not be in several places at the same time, so he devised a ritual that allowed him to give conditional absolution to over 2,000 men before they went into battle. Up ahead is the largest monument on the battlefield. It is the Pennsylvania Memorial, erected to honor the Pennsylvanians that fought here. If you have any relatives that were involved, and you know in what unit they served, you can find their name engraved on one of the bronze plaques placed all around the memorial. We will be returning to this area shortly and will dramatize the famous charge with General George E. Pickett's division at the spearhead.
We are leaving the area now, but will return shortly and dramatically relive that amazing assault. If you are not stopping at the Pennsylvania Memorial, bear to the right onto Pleasanton Avenue, following the auto tour sign arrow for the 3-hour tour. We are traveling on Pleasanton Avenue and soon will be intersecting the Taneytown Road. Following the auto tour signs, make a left turn, proceed about 1/2 mile, then, when indicated, a right turn onto Hunt Avenue. Turn off the tape until on Hunt Avenue.
Straight away, let's scan what evolved directly after Longstreet's assault, or as it is better known, Pickett's charge. After the battle, the main task of both armies was to tend their wounded and bury their dead. And that was no mean task. For of the 172,000 men committed to this battle, 51,000 were killed, wounded, or missing in action. The result is that 1 out of every 3 soldiers in both armies was a battle casualty. More than 5,000 horses were killed, and approximately 569 tons of ammunition used. Gettysburg is considered one of the most decisive battles in the history of mankind. After Pickett's charge failed, General Meade does not issue orders to attack the Confederates. This would seem the proper strategy, due to the fact the Southern forces had been badly beaten and in full retreat. No one really knows why. Perhaps it was because his troops were involved in the maudlin task of caring for their own dead and wounded. For whatever reason, the Confederates were allowed to proceed south, utilizing a wagon train reported to be 17 miles long. When this wagon train reached the shores of the Potomac, the river was so swollen by heavy rains it was impossible to cross. Still no attack from General Meade. When President Lincoln heard this, he was furious and was motivated to write a harsh letter of condemnation. After rethinking the situation, the letter was torn up and never sent. Later, Lincoln reflected, "Why should we censure a man who has done so much for his country because he did not do a little more?"
Soon we will be intersecting the Baltimore Pike and turning right to proceed on the pike about 1/4 mile. Then watch for an auto tour sign indicating a left turn. Turn off the tape until you have made that left turn.
We are in the Culp's Hill area, which was the focal point of the conjecture surrounding the vague order given to General Ewell by General Lee, and was involved in that intense fray the second day. Many more battles of the Civil War would ensue, and more bloodshed would result. But it is clear now that Lee's bold and daring move to invade the North, which he felt would allow support from France and England, and therefore a Confederate victory would be ensured if he had won at Gettysburg. On the other hand, it is conjectured that the South lost the war before a shot was fired at Fort Sumter. The rationale behind this thinking is that wars are won on the 3 M's: manpower, money, and material. Manpower. The North had a population of 22 million in 1861. The South had a population of 9 million the same year. However, 3 million were slaves. Therefore, there were 22 million people versus 6 million. Money. The money capital of the world was Wall Street, New York City, and money transactions there would favor the Union. Material. The industrial North versus the agrarian South. The vast majority of all kinds of manufacturing plants were located in the North.
Soon on our left is Spangler's Spring, so named because it is on a section of the farm owned by the Spangler family. For years it was popularly believed that during the night after the first day's battle, soldiers of both sides gathered here to fill their canteens. It is, however, unlikely that such a thing actually took place. When we arrive at Spangler's Spring, find a place to park in the provided spaces. Turn off the tape player until we have done so, then turn it on again. At this stop, the Park Service has provided modern restrooms. If you care to make use of these facilities, or just stretch your legs a bit, turn off the tape player now. If not, let's continue our drive, following the auto tape tour signs, maintaining a speed of 15 miles per hour.
One more thing. Another M. A wild card, so to speak. Morale. Surely the Confederates were on a high after a string of victories. Now that big if question. If the Confederates had won at Gettysburg, and England and France had committed their navies to move supplies to the south, it would not have been too difficult to break the blockade of southern ports now cut off by the Union Navy. Okay, now it's your turn again. Which do you feel is most correct? Here are some facts about the Civil War that probably will startle you. Did you know that more American lives were lost in the Civil War than in both World Wars combined? In World War I, 116,511 Americans were killed, and in World War II, American deaths came to 405,399. The total of American deaths in these major conflicts amounted to almost 523,000. The Civil War cost 622,511 American lives. In my opinion, the more than 3,500 acres of this national military park are just too beautiful to have endured such carnage. This particular part of Culp's Hill saw both the Southern and Federal forces torn to pieces here. Did you catch the different names that I just used? Well, this brings up the question of semantics. The North has been known as Union, Federal, Yankees, Northerners, and the Army of the Potomac. The South, Rebels, Johnnies, Confederates, Southerners, and the Army of Northern Virginia. The war has been referred to with 28 different names. Remember the opening of this tape when I referred to the War of the Rebellion? Well, that was the official name of this war.
Our next stop is a Park Service tower. This is a great place to overview the battle areas soon to be dramatized. You might enjoy the view from the top of the tower. Again, it is worth the climb if you so choose. Do so now. Stop the tape. Start it when you return to your vehicle.
As we come off the hill, you can get a good view of the center of the Union position. You can also try to picture what General Ewell's troops would have stumbled onto if General Lee hadn't said if. In the hollow to our left, wagon loads of ammunition, food, spare cannon, what a haul they would have made. And there they were, sleeping just 500 yards to our right. Just one more thing about this. There's really no way of knowing just how hard these Union soldiers would have fought to keep these Confederate soldiers from taking their supplies.
When we are off the hill, we will intersect the Baltimore Pike again. We will make a left turn onto the Baltimore Pike after progressing a short distance. You will see an auto tour sign directing you to the right onto Hunt Avenue. Turn off the tape until you are on Hunt Avenue, then turn it on again.
The situation just before dawn on the third day is quite similar to what it was before dawn on the second day, with the exception of Culp's Hill. That battle would have to be resumed with daylight, because during the night, Confederate forces captured the lower slope and dug in, while the North strongly reinforced the top. The planning sessions didn't take quite as long last night as they did the previous night. The most significant thing to come out of yesterday's fighting was that the Union line had two weak spots, both of them near the center of the line, at that low section of the ridge to our right and slightly north. General Lee figured that he had enough men and ammunition for one more good thrust. He and his men would give it everything they had, which was quite a lot. The plan was simple, right out of Napoleon's textbook.
When we arrive at the Taneytown Road, follow the auto tour signs back to Pleasanton. Turn off the tape until on Pleasanton Avenue, then turn it back on. Soon we will be approaching the angle, the thrust point of the third day's battle to be dramatized for you. When at the angle, park and turn the tape back on. I will inform you when to start driving again.
As the eastern sky becomes washed with sunlight, the sound of battle swells in the air again over Gettysburg. This is July 3rd, 1863, the third day of the Battle of Gettysburg. By mid-morning, the battle for Culp's Hill is resolved, with the Union still firmly in control of the hill. Silence falls upon the battlefield. The Union Chief of Artillery, General Henry J. Hunt, has been carefully studying what his former pupil at West Point, now Chief of Longstreet's Artillery, Colonel E.P. Alexander, is doing with his cannon. General Hunt places about 90 cannon facing the Confederate battle line. The total distance across this field is just short of a mile. It's just before noon now, and the area about us has not known such stillness in over 3 days. The stillness is shattered by 2 signal shots. These are the harbingers of an audible holocaust that has never before been equaled in war. Begin to answer the Confederate, and the combined cannonade reaches such a volume that it's later reported that it was heard as far east as Philadelphia. But the greatest damage caused by this awesome barrage is to the hearing and the nerves of the infantry. The artillery observers on either side cannot see where their shells are hitting. To the east of us, not a quarter mile, General Meade's headquarters has to be evacuated, for shells are bursting all about it. For over 2 hours, the indescribably horrible noise continues. Then General Hunt orders the remaining cannon to cut down on the frequency of their firing to conserve ammunition. These 2 orders caused the Union firing line to become quiet for a few minutes. Colonel Alexander assumes from this slack of the Union guns that his artillery has done its job, that the Union line is shattered. He orders his own artillery silenced. The battlefield is again quiet, with an uncertain stillness lying heavy on the air. The fog of smoke is soon dissipated by a gentle summer's breeze. The overcast sky has broken, and the sun is shining through. The clearing smoke reveals across the field, illuminated by the afternoon sun, the forming of 3 divisions of infantry, 15,000 men. From this distance, it seems, they form silently. They form first into regiments, then into brigades, and the brigades form into divisions. The 3 divisions form a line almost 1.5 miles in length and several columns deep. To the south is the division commanded by General George E. Pickett. The drummer boys pick up the cadence to which they will march across this field.
Thank God it's the infantry.
The Union soldiers didn't thank God because they felt that the infantry would be easy to face, only because they knew now that this would be the end, one way or the other. There is, from the first moment of this charge, something different, eerie. From here it seems they're coming so slowly, so quietly, with only the distant sound of their drummers. It's all so unreal. Even the Union line is silent, almost in awe.
Aye, now, aren't they magnificent? I've never seen the likes. It's like they're on parade. Oh, God, there are so many of them.
Be brave, men. Do not falter from the line. Your safety now is in the hands of God.
When they are halfway across the field, the artillery of the Round Top and at the North Crescent open up and send shells ripping through the lines, killing sometimes 10 men with a single shell. But the gaps are filled and the lines keep coming. Closer they come. Soon 300 yards. Now 200 yards. Now 100.
Ready. Aim. Fire! Fire! Fire!
It has been known ever since as the high water mark of the Confederacy, their finest moment. Forget, if you can, the issues involved and admire these men in a glorious exhibition of gallantry, valor, courage, and dedication. And witness also the death of the Romantic era. .150 actually made it across the stone wall here, fighting hand to hand, and finally overcoming the regiment defending this position. They push through here for maybe 100 yards. A brigade of Vermonters form over there on the rise, take aim, and let loose a devastating fire into the attack. In a few minutes, it's all over. The Confederate forces, severely mauled, begin to fall back. General Longstreet realizes that the attack has failed. The Battle of Gettysburg is over.
Please start driving now. Be aware of a right turn onto the Cyclorama Center parking lot. Auto tour signs will direct you. Find a place to park as the finish of this tape is dramatized for you.
The date, November 19th. The year, 1863. The weather, bleak. The event, the dedication of the National Cemetery.
And so, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, it gives me great pride and pleasure to present to you the President of the United States, Abraham Lincoln.
It has never happened before, it shall never happen again, and it is to the credit of so many gathered here on this day that they knew that the greatest battle ever fought on this continent was commemorated by one of the greatest speeches ever given. This simple, sublime, perfect Gettysburg Address.
This is what he said. This is what Abraham Lincoln said.
77 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Now we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation, or any nation, so conceived and so dedicated, can long endure. We are met on a great battlefield of that war. We have come to dedicate a portion of that field as a final resting place for those who here gave their lives that that nation might live. It is altogether fitting and proper that we should do this. But in a larger sense, we cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate, we cannot hallow this ground. The brave men living and dead who struggled here have consecrated it far above our poor power to add or detract. The world will little note nor long remember what but it can never forget what they did here. It is for us, the living, rather to be dedicated here to the unfinished work which they who fought here have thus far so nobly advanced. It is rather for us to be here dedicated to the great task remaining before us, that from these honored dead we take increased devotion to that cause for which they gave the last full measure of devotion. That we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain. That this nation, under God, shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, and for the people, shall not perish from the earth.